Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. There has been a lot of talk at many of our prior events about dealership culture and changes taking place at the retail level, many of those led by the people on this panel today. Adam Aarons is one of the earliest ones to take us through the importance of dealership culture. Today, we're going to talk with a group of leaders about a 4-day store-wide work week. And to moderate the panel, we're going to have with us today Lori Halter from Charisma Communications. The panelists consist of Eric Barbosa from Henson Brand Dealerships. Eric, thank you so much for being with us today. Ed Roberts at Bozard Ford Lincoln. Adam Aarons from the Patriot Automotive Group, who I mentioned just a little bit earlier. Chris Slayton from the Vernon Automotive Group is here with us today, and Jeff Daniel from the Maple Hill Auto Group. Lori Halter, you have got a team of superstars here, so I'm going to get out of the way and let you get things started.
Great. Thank you so much. And I totally agree. When they told me who'd be on this panel, I was so excited. I know most of you in person and have had the opportunity to meet you. But also, I love the idea of this 4-day work week. I mean, we've talked a lot about flexibility. I'm a huge advocate of work-life balance. And so we just thought we'd get a panel together and talk about what's working, some of the challenges, and maybe some of the, more importantly, ROI, because I think a lot of times people hear 4-day work week and they think that's a nice thing to think about, but does it really affect the bottom line? So I'm going to start out with 3 of you who have actually already implemented this, and we'll go from longest to shortest. So I believe, Adam, I think out of our panel, you've been doing it the longest. What made you decide to start a 4-day work week, and what were kind of some of the challenges and opportunities that you found along the way?
So it was always a goal for us to be able to do that. And then COVID came along and instituted, in some cases, 2- and 3-day work weeks. And then we said, you know what, we're not going to go back to the traditional 5. And it depends on which department you're talking about. One of the things that I did mention in getting ready for this is that we had some people that didn't want to do it. Either because of their personal lives, family life, it just worked for them. So when I say we had some challenge to it, we continue to, but we adapted that, right? So there's production, there's the company needs, and there's the needs of the individual. And I'll focus a little bit on maybe the toughest department, believe it or not, to do this is the sales department, where they're so used to being there. And so my finally putting my foot down to say, okay, well, if you schedule them for 5, some work 6. If we can schedule them for 4, some will work 5. And that really resonated and got the job done so that people do take some time off and have an opportunity. There's some tremendous benefits in your recruiting. Obviously, there's tremendous benefits in continuity. A little bit longer day, less days works for everybody. But here's one of the really good things is that if somebody knows that they're going to be off 3 consecutive days, 1 week a month, and always have Tuesdays off, all of a sudden the things that need to be done outside of the dealership that aren't in relation to the dealership, call it a doctor's visit or whatever it may be, all happen on Tuesdays, and it happens consecutively. And very good salespeople can control their customer base by letting them know what days that they're not going to be there, right? So you don't need an appointment. You can come in. I'm not here on Monday and Tuesday, the first week of the month, and then whatever it may be going forward. So we had the easiest place was in the service department. It allowed us to use our real estate, our bays better. So immediately 3 people can occupy 2 bays 6 days a week. I apologize. Sorry about the dog.
Hey, that's what happens when we're live panel, right?
That's part of being at work. And then the office found it very easy to go. And we found every place else easy to go. I think the most difficult place was in sales. The resistance we had, some was in service, but we have some people who are on 3-day work weeks now, some on 4 and some on 5, based on the needs of the associate, as long as we can handle the real estate.
Wow, amazing. So cool. And Chris, I know that you've been doing this for a while. How long have you been doing this in your dealership, and what made you decide to move to this type of model?
Well, we've actually been doing it since about 2018, and we kind of approach it differently. So I didn't set out to be very altruistic and going, hey, what's the next cultural thing? I'm actually a pretty productivity and efficiency guy, so I'm always looking for the next thing to do it. And one of those things is actually kind of theory-wise is constraint theory. By containing different variables and constraining stuff, you make people more productive and efficient. And so when I started looking at studies, looking at, measuring stuff, and the fixed ops department gives a lot of leadway to this. If you go look at your fixed ops, we got all these great metrics from clock time to flag time, productivity, efficiency, but we never go apply that to time with our associates. And so when you actually go look at quantitatively what's going on in a dealership, and you go look at how much time is actually being worked in a dealership, you realize there's all this wasteful time. And that's backed by empirical studies from other industries. And you see these other industries, and they're usually in the software services or job related industries like legal, accounting, other things that are measured by jobs and not in the retail sector, in which people have gone to 4-day work week and they've seen this huge increase in productivity, because we find that there's so much time being wasted during an average workday. So when I started putting things together, I'm like, wait a minute, I can solve all this work-life balance stuff. I can recruit better, and I can constrain for time, which makes people, by definition, if you've only got 4 days to do something instead of 5 or 6, you got to find the most efficient and simplest way to do so. So processes automatically just come to fruition because you can't get stuff done in 5 days. So by limiting and cutting out 25% of the time you're available at work, it just magical stuff happens. And so like Adam mentioned, it was a complete disaster when we started it. Complete and utter disaster. It is like, it sounds cutesy and it's like this awesome stuff, but when you're changing any type of culture, I don't care if it's for the better, there's always this rough patch that you go through that is very traumatic. I remember 10 years ago when sales associates working 6 days, moving them to 5 days was like pulling teeth. Now you move them to 4 days and you think, everybody and their mother went crazy. So I actually took a cue from, I have a corporate team that I send out to some of my different stores that I put on a 4-day, they had a 5-day work week, but on 4 days they were traveling. On the 5th, on Fridays, they had to work, but they could do anything they wanted to. They just couldn't check in. They couldn't officially be at work. Right. But they couldn't respond to anything. They couldn't do anything. It was their free day to do whatever. So I started taking some cues from that and going, okay, wait a minute. If I can implement this with our associates, you have to work. You're scheduled for 4 days. If you want to come in on your 5th day, don't care. Walk up in shorts. Don't do anything. If you're going to deal with a customer, then you have to be in uniform. But you can do whatever you want to. Just that little degree of freedom changed the entire dynamic. Now, I will say a 4-day work week is very, very, very dependent upon the demographics you work at and your store specifically, because you're going to have some places that love 4-day work weeks that are able to get through it and you depending on your work staff, if it's female oriented versus male oriented, or single moms or single families or multiple families. There's a lot of different dynamics with what happens when the time gating comes into consideration, because some people might want to get hourly employees. How do you get somebody 40 hours in a work week? Well, if you have a 4-day work week, they got to work from 8 to 6 to get those hours in. Well, if they work 8 to 6, guess what happens to kids in school? Guess what happens to people that have ball games and everything else? You automatically, people that were leaving at 5 o'clock every day, now are leaving at 6 to get their hours in. Some people can't handle that and can't do that, right? And so the biggest litmus test is, 1, your organization itself, and 2, your managers being committed to it. If they're committed to the betterment of the organization and the people, you're going to find ways. And that's really the true power of it, is you just set something in stone, you'll find a way to do it. And it's not being scared to go do it.
I love that. And I was so fascinated when I heard from some of you that you got a little bit of pushback, because for me, I would be like, sweet, a 4-day work week. And so that's what I expected would be the majority of the case. But it sounds like, and Eric, I'm going to kind of put this over to you. It sounds like, especially in the sales organization and things, like you said, people can be afraid of change. And so I'm surprised there was some feedback. Eric, you, I think, just recently implemented this. Let me know if I'm correct. And what did you find with your employees when you introduced this?
Well, that's what I'm finding today. I worked with the previous group with Chris Slayton, so I've been watching him and learning from him for years. And when he did it, I was always, thinking that's the future. And then I called Chris, I don't know, maybe 7 months ago, and had a good conversation. He probably doesn't know this. I recorded the whole conversation so I can play it back, because I wanted to do it. I just, I didn't know how. And I was worried about the little, things that these guys were talking about now that now I'm starting to see and feel and go through. But I remember you, Chris. I don't know if you remember telling me just rip the Band-Aid off, right? And we did that August 1st of this month. Now we prepped them for the last 4 months. Like, we're going to go do this, start, we're looking at your schedules. We were like for 4 months working through schedules to make sure we had coverage. Knowing that conversation I had with Chris, he gave me some heads up about follow-up, with customers, the technicians not completing jobs, the salespeople, making sure that they don't feel like something's being taken away. So I had a little bit of leverage because of his, 4 years now of doing it.
Yeah.
And going into it, as of right now, I haven't had big ordeals, but one of them is right now in service with a technician not finishing a job. The other one is the follow-up of customers, our CSI, making sure that we have enough coverage to do some of those follow-up calls. So it's just figuring these things out and staffing up. Another thing is Chris told me, make sure that you have enough staff, or at least know that you're going to have to staff up in some areas, which we've done. And another thing that I did come across was that what he just said, predominantly we're 60% female here. As far as a staff, which these ladies, he's right. They got to go, and most of them are taking their kids to school. So we've shifted hours a little bit. We've extended hours and kind of done you can either come in at this time and then get off here, or you can come in at this time and get off here. But we figured out on how to still give them that 40-hour work week and accommodate them. And we've had some success again, but it's third week. And right now the data I have, it looks great, but I'm still waiting for something else to kind of creep up on me. And
I was just going to say, who else thinks Eric's going to be like pulled away in the middle of this panel for some kind of fire for 3 weeks in?
Yeah. All it's been is really communication. And I think I had a good mentor with Chris tell me, these are the things to look out for. So we had a heads up, and we're focused on those things. But I will say recruiting, great tool, because that's really, that and work-life balance is what we wanted. And we've achieved both. We're starting to get a little bit more talent. We recruited some technicians. We got some good advisors. And it's a good thing for us right now.
I love it. Well, and I love what you said too. We have two absolute superstars at CSI and back of the house fixed ops in Jeff and Ed. So Jeff and Ed, I'd like to do things a little differently than we have on panels in the past. I'd love to hear what questions you each would have if you were looking at this 4-day work week, both from a fixed ops standpoint and an overall just CSI customer retention standpoint. So Jeff, maybe let's start with you from the fixed ops side.
I think that from my standpoint, I think it'd be easier on the fixed ops side. If you set up a simplified service program, you've got a lead technician and a mentor. With the issues we're having getting people in fixed ops, it would be prime time to get a 4-day or a 3-day work week person so that you could have somebody come in. Your lead tech works Monday through. He's got somebody underneath him Tuesday through the rest of the week, and they're able to finish those jobs. So I sat down with a group that they've actually been 3 12-hour days for 12 years.
Wow.
Their techs work Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And then the next year, they work Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Their turnover is less than 10%. They're busy. Their staff is great. They've got other business ventures that they do. Their bodies are holding up because they're not there, day in and day out, 60 hours a week. Their productivity hasn't changed. They've got people waiting to work there, which is the unknown. Now, I ran into a salesperson at my golf league last night that said, I haven't had he left the business. He said, I haven't had a Saturday off in 6.5 years. He went to work for a roofing company. Busy day for all dealerships is Saturday. Or is it? We've built the business the way we want to run it, the way we think our customers want to come in the door. Or is it? Could they be there at 6 a.m. doing their paperwork and getting everything done instead of finance manager coming in at 9 o'clock, leaving at 5:30, or leaving at 10 o'clock when the deals are done? So, you throw the box away and you start thinking about what's best for everybody involved. If you've got somebody that's a mom that's got to take their kids to work at 9 o'clock and they can deliver a car at 7 a.m, Why not have them come in if the customer's in agreement? Get them in, get them out the door, let them do their thing. I have a fairly large female staff here. I mean, who would have thought that females in the industry and working on cars and driveways like Ed does down there would even be a thing?
Right.
But the 4-day, the variable work weeks, we're burning people out left and right. I mean, it's not novel anymore. It's the way we have to start thinking to take care of our people from a longevity standpoint. I can shoot holes in it all day long, but the pluses from this side of the fence are I can keep a technician happier and keep him working longer, because at 50, he's still going to be able to function.
Yeah.
And train his replacement, which is the big key. They aren't making more of them. So if you can have somebody work underneath somebody, keep them there for 3 or 4 days, let him work 1 day on his own with a very good checklist, a very good mentor. Does it work for everybody? No, you'd have to start slow. But I think we have to embrace things like this. It's not out of the box. It's the way we need to look at things.
I totally agree. And speaking of out of the box, Ed Roberts is one of the most innovative dealers I know. So Ed, what do you think about all this? I'm surprised you don't already have this emotion.
So I do have some different schedules in all different departments, and we'll talk about that. But I really like what Jeff said about the 3-day work week. I have not played with that any at all. But we're open 14 hours a day in service. So we're open 7 in the morning until 9 at night. So we already have some staggered shifts to do different things and have a lot of part-time people. So do different things on the service side. And on the sales side, starting back in about 2016, we set up for our guys to earn a title rather than just be salespeople. We set up an opportunity for them to earn client portfolio managers. And as they become a CPM, then they write their own schedule. And they have to average 16 cars a month to do that. But if they're averaging 16 cars a month, they can't average that if they're not showing up to work. So they'll show up to work and make it happen when they need to. If they sell 24 cars this month, you're probably not going to see them a whole lot next month. It's a 90-day rolling average. But that I'm okay with that. I want them to have some work-life balance. But then also, like with Adam said, when COVID hit, it forced us to do some different things because not everybody here is CPMs. And CPMs, they get it. There's an assistant for every 4 of them, and they can help them with filling vehicles and whatever. So we make them more efficient, but they have to earn their way in doing that. And they have different golf carts and whatever else. It's labeled so everybody knows that they run a different deal. But when COVID hit, we shifted to, in case we had an outbreak, let's go every other day. So we divided our sales managers in half and our sales staff in half, and every other day it switched back and forth. So 1 week you'd work 3 days, and next week you'd work 4 days. And what we found, and it was said something was with earlier, is they stayed on task more, because rather than come in and hang out for 3 hours and then try to make something happen, they would set themselves up for the next day they're here. And when they're here, all of a sudden before they was getting 3 appointments a week. Now they're getting 3 appointments a day because they needed to make that more impactful. So we carried that forward, and now we've modified it a little bit, but essentially on the sales side, you work half the days, and most of them can control their own schedule there. Some we have to pull back. Certainly the younger ones that we're training, and we want to make sure they can sell cars after we have inventory again. We keep those here a little bit more.
Yeah, some of this is inventory can be a little bit of the challenge as well.
Exactly.
Sure right now. But I like that idea, because especially for salespeople and competitive people, I like what you're saying about it actually makes them more hungry, right? Because they don't want that person coming in while they're out of the dealership. So they're going to work harder to make sure that deal goes through on the day that they're there.
Exactly. And if they need to come in on their day off because that's what's convenient to their client, then they'll come in for that, and we can work with them on the next day off or whatever. Yeah. So it's about being flexible, and I'm all about that. So I love being on this panel. I love learning from these guys. There's a lot of great minds on here. Jeff, I want to talk to you more about that 3-day deal and switching every year to where, I mean, that rung my bell right there, because that would fit our schedule well. And
well, I like what we're talking about. What I really like about this is a lot of times I think when people talk about work-life balance or flexibility or 4-day work weeks, they're really thinking of it as a nice benefit for employees. But what I'm hearing from all of you is it's actually got ROI and productivity, and in terms of dollars. So Chris, can you give us a little more information about you really looking at the numbers and why, from really a money standpoint, even it makes more sense?
Yeah, I'll probably give you the biggest. I'm probably unique here. My stores are 100% internet based. I mean, 95% of our vehicles are shipped nationwide. So we only have about a 3 to 5% in store rate. Up until we started this from 2010 to 2018, our average salesperson was doing about 32 cars a month. Ever since we actually started doing the 4-day work week, we're actually at 46 cars a month. Okay. So we dramatically, and again, because you just can't fake it. You got to get in, you got to go do stuff. And since we're internet based, everything's on the phone calls, everything else. And so it's very unique in how we do it. And so it serves this was the problem that we had, is that I would actually say for salespeople, it's a little bit easier for a more traditional store in that they're taking ups, they're handling customers then and there and being able to take care of that, because you got more sales on the lot at that point in time to buy versus internet customers that take about 2 to 7 days to actually get a sale done. And so that was one of the problems that we had with the follow-up processes and everything else. And so what we learned is that if we time block everybody, we had to come up with more efficient systems ourselves. Like we actually ended up having to teach more productivity, more efficiency. Means I had to start giving different classes on how to be better at not just car sales, but how to be better at time management. And so you start reaching in your pocket really, really, really deep, and you start becoming innovative on how you do stuff. Technicians is a perfect example, is that, at first you've got technicians going, that's my job, I'm not leaving it. Or if they leave it, what are you going to do for the 48 hours they're not there because the car's sitting there and you need it out? You take the simplest solution. You get a junior tech, you pair them up. Guess what happens? It's the simplest. Now, think about all the benefits that happens with that. You automatically got to pair up a junior tech with a senior tech. You're going to get reps in for the junior tech, which they don't get a whole lot. Usually junior techs start off with master tech. They have to do all the little gopher jobs, right? But now they're actually having to get reps in. The master tech does not have to worry about losing their hours. They're getting the benefit of it. You start finding these hidden little benefits that aggregately just start coming out. And it works better, I will say, for your accounting departments, your e-business departments, and departments that are job oriented. It actually works better than from the retail side, because you got to think about what happens on the retail side. And this is why it's not predominantly happening 4-day work weeks on the retail side when you look across all industries, because you have this consumer base that is used to working from 8 to 9, 8 to 10, whatever it's come in. How do you staff for that in an industry that's already short staffed? Right? It's very, very, very hard. So time is of an essence. So then you figure out how to process customers quicker. It's in their best interest. All this stuff has hidden benefits. So yes, it might start off from some dealerships being a cultural thing. Cultural things also are not just what's best for the employee, best for the dealership, best for the company, but there's best for the customers too. It's an identity. Culture is identity, and it's not just single faceted. And so that's what you find that happen, is that just all this magical stuff starts happening if you buy in.
Well, I love it. I mean, like Ted said, this panel is just, we could go on this for 2 hours with all of you, but I want to give you all an opportunity before we end the interview to talk about what you think is the biggest benefit and perhaps the biggest challenge for the 4-day work week. And for the 3 that have and actually 4, because that it sounds like you've pretty much implemented it, the lessons learned. And then Jeff, for you, either if you were going into this, thinking about this, or what would be the one thing you'd be thinking about as you move into the 4-day work week? So let's start with Eric. Sorry, Eric Barbosa.
I got you. I was trying to get that mute button. The biggest benefit for us right now really is that we are becoming more efficient, and we're maximizing our hours as a company, and we're seeing the benefits of that. And what Chris just hit on, it does impact the consumer, because you're getting to me, our staff is coming just ready to work, more creative, engaged. There's no burnout. They're being effective. And in all reality, when you look at the time block that you're doing, and it's the same time they were putting in before, it's just they have some freedom. Like you can still work your 5th day. It's optional, and I think there's a big benefit to that. Is for us is going to be efficiency. We're becoming more efficient, and recruitment. We're now starting to get people that maybe didn't think about living or working in Madisonville that are driving here because they're tired of the 12-hour days in Houston. And I just hired one now. He's driving from Baytown. It's an hour and a half.
Wow.
And he's a stud of a sales manager, and I'm excited to have him. But finance director just came on board, and his whole deal was, man, I'm just burnt out. And I think that's where our biggest benefit is right now.
Yeah, that sounds great. Adam, what would you say is the biggest benefit you've seen from your?
I'm gonna take your question in a little different way, and then hopefully answer it the way you want it. The first obstacle, by the way, our mission statement is to serve the customer, our families, the community, and each other, right? So we had to use all those elements as we transition. But work in progress, or lack of attention to work in progress, is the biggest obstacle to launching this, and that includes in the general office, in the parts department, in the sales department, the F&I department, the service department. So having some element of anticipation of that and how you're going to deal with it. And I'm not going to tell you how to deal with it. I can tell you how we dealt with it. But yes, it is team oriented, and a team oriented piece of the puzzle as it relates to compensation. So there's not a car sitting in the air overnight for a weekend ever, right?
Yeah.
And there's not a breakdown in the parts part of it, of getting the parts in, because everything's done inside the system. But we decided, like I said, based on the need of the individual, the need of the customer, and the need of the company, that we try to find this fit. And I will tell you, everybody has one of these, a high producing individual who's not a team player. In our case, we have a technician who turns 110 hours a week. We offered him an apprentice, a second person. We offered him his choice of somebody. He refuses to let anybody touch a car. He's no longer there.
Wow.
Right. And everybody says, I want that person, or I want a 60 car a month salesperson, or 70 car a month salesperson. And we all do, unless they ruin the place. Right. So we've been able to solve for that. And then what we made a decision was, rather than cut the cord, we transitioned. So our recruiting and hiring is into 3 and 4 day work weeks. For technicians, it's for 3 days. And the last thing I will tell you is, if you're closed on Sunday, this is easier. It's more difficult if you're open for sales and service on Sunday to do this than if you're scheduling to a 6 day work week. So the biggest benefit is we decided what we wanted our future to look like, and we're getting there. And we will transition every year some more people to the 3 day week or the 4 day week.
I love that. And because we're talking so much about technicians, Jeff, I'd love your thoughts on this. I know, like I said, you're fixed ops, you're back of house. You have a mentorship program for your technicians. So what do you think about all this?
Well, it's going to be an easy thing for me to at least set up the bases. Simplified service for me is going to be teams of 2 or 3 in a bay. I was looking at some numbers when I got back from Denver, talking to a couple individuals, and where one guy was producing 15 to 18 hours a day, they put 3 in one bay, and that bay produced 54 hours a day.
Wow.
And he's got 8 bays. So he's running 400 hours a day with 2 apprentices and 1 senior tech that is watching the kids, if you will. So while he's babysitting, you're training your replacement talent, which is what we need in the industry. It's a no-brainer to me to at least do that part of it, which would make it simpler to say, okay, you've done Monday through Friday, let the kids have Tuesday through Friday, or Monday through Thursday, let the apprentice do Tuesday through Friday, finish everything up. Again, the dealer, we're 25-year dealer. I don't think he's on board with doing it. That's going to be the hard sell, is getting him to say, it can work. Let's really sit down and think about it. Panels like this, I'm going to sit down when this airs. I'm going to do some more talking, go over some of the data I brought back, and say, why couldn't we in our market? The way we've done it for 50 years, the automotive industry is hugely adaptive. One of the most creative industries you'll ever see. With COVID hits, okay, we're still open for business. Let's do things this way. Let's deliver cars to people's house. Let's pick them up and deliver them. God forbid somebody like Ed Roberts comes around and goes to their house and does the job. I mean, what is he thinking? He's thinking, we're going to make money doing this. Parts delays. What do? We buy more fleet vehicles and deliver more parts. We expanded our area, and our wholesale business is going great guns because we didn't step back. We stepped forward. And this is a step forward. It's again, realizing what we've got going on and how are we going to survive the next onslaught of I don't want to work that long. 415,000 people left the workplace in July and August that just walked away, that were not of age to retire. They're just tired of it. So how do we become progressive? How do we, the wheels are gonna turn a lot.
Okay, so Ed, finishing with you, how do we become progressive?
It's a mindset. It's a what if and why not mindset. And I'll tell you, for me, my daughter and my family is my why. And anybody that follows me understands that. And I had a dad walk up to me, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago and says, "Don't you work at a car dealership?" I said, "Yes." He said, "How are you able to be at all these events all the time?" And I said, "Because it's my why." Well, because it's my why, I want it to also be my people's why. And if I don't make it available for them to be able to do those things, then they're not going to make sure that I have the availability to be able to do those things. So it's giving back. It's give and take.
Wow.
Ed, can you believe this panel, by the way?
Lori, it is so good. Adam, this is so good that we got to make this a teaser and come back this fall, Eric. And we got to go ahead and pick it up and find out how everybody is doing with some of the things we talked about today. So if you don't mind, I would like to continue this conversation, Lori, at our next event and give it a little bit more time, because there's so many strong points that I know everyone is taking away a lot of very valuable information. I want to thank this amazing panel, Jeff Daniel, Chris Slayton. I can't believe some of the numbers, 46 units a month. Adam Aarons, wow. It just keeps getting better. Ed Roberts, so many things on the variable and on the fixed side that we're hearing. Eric, congratulations on making this move, because I know that's going to be of great benefit at Madisonville and attracting and retaining more talent. And Lori Halter, great job with moderating this panel.
Well, they make it easy. I mean, look at this panel.
Yeah,
it's easy as can be.
They really do. Everybody, great thanks on behalf of the Fixed Ops community for your time today. The all-star panel, the 4-day Storewide Work Week panel here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.